I developed a proposal for Congressman Kasich, and she had helped develop the proposal for Jim Colby. And so over the period of several years, we both sort of had our own ideas and tried to push those forward. And she was as unsuccessful as I was in actually getting anything done. So let me ask the question this way. So are there any lessons learned? I mean, we started on this with some idea of where we thought all of this would
Right.
go, and it didn't happen. So has your thinking evolved over the years about what, lessons learned? What did we do right? What did
Right.
we do wrong? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think a couple of things. Lessons learned early that still hold today are that I think everybody needs to agree that we have a problem in Social Security. It frustrates the heck out of me when we've got lawmakers running around saying we don't need to worry about Social Security, it's solvent until 2030 something. I think that's just the height of irresponsibility. Um, so I think it's really important that we have bipartisan agreement that there's a problem. Second is that second lesson learned is that at least when I started on the Hill in the late 90s, um, voters were willing to listen. I worked for a Republican member, a moderate from Tucson, Arizona, which, as you can imagine, had a really high population of people who were of Social Security age. So to come out with a Social Security reform bill, it's pretty politically uh, risky for Congressman Colby. But he was very good, and I learned how to as well. Sit down, talk to people, explain what was going on in Social Security, explain how his bill worked, and then sit there and answer their questions until the cows came home. And if you give people that bandwidth, that time, that attention, and you enable that conversation and you listen to what they're saying, and they in turn, voters in turn, listen to the lawmakers, it's amazing how much compromise can be achieved. He was actually reelected twice after introducing a Social Security reform bill, and he ran on that bill both times. So, it is possible to, quote, touch the third rail of politics and survive. But one thing I'm starting to wonder now, 20 years after the fact, is whether, when we first approached the problem back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the Social Security reform proposals were comprehensive. They did a complete overhaul and basically addressed every problem that we knew existed, whether it was, trying to ensure a minimum poverty level benefit, trying to make sure that elderly widows, were still taken care of, trying to eliminate some of the unfairness in the formula, uh, when, raising the retirement age, raising taxes, basically raising more money for Social Security because we have more beneficiaries collecting Social Security for longer. But it was a soup to nuts piece of legislation. And now I'm wondering that type of approach may not survive contact with the voters. Given the partisan nature of Congress these days, the internet, the way misinformation can fly left and right, the distrust between both sides. I'm wondering if the pathway forward is not a comprehensive reform bill, but perhaps a series of small tweaks, bipartisan balanced tweaks, that attack, tweaks that address the issue from both the spending side and the revenue side, but just small things that don't necessarily achieve 75-year solvency, for example, or solve the problem permanently, but something small that helps in the short term, that helps build some trust, both between Republicans and Democrats, but also between lawmakers and voters.